We're analyzing the systemic architecture of a market in transition. This isn't just an update, it's a foundational shift in how enterprise software is valued, integrated, and deployed. In this analysis, we're dissecting the operational realities hidden inside recent market data, Anthropic's dual model releases, and deep dive architectural blueprints. If you're an enterprise architect, tech leader, or executive stakeholder, listen closely. The fundamental question today is no longer whether an AI can perform a task, it's whether your current digital infrastructure is structurally sound enough to survive the transition. To really grasp the gravity of this shift, we have to look at the metrics. Global software and services stocks shed roughly $830 billion in market value over a staggering 6-day period. Let that number sink in. This wasn't some temporary market correction. This was a massive, structural repricing. Investors actively reassessed the threat of frontier AI models moving aggressively into the application layer, and that is the exact layer where legacy enterprise software vendors have historically generated all their recurring revenue.
So what's the core conflict here? It comes down to pricing models. On one side, you have the legacy reality, seat-based pricing. On the other, the modern requirement, governed workflow ownership. The market's recurring, very real concern is that highly capable AI agents are directly weakening the value of per-seat application access. Think about it. If an AI agent becomes the primary interface for the work, the human user no longer logs into the legacy application. To defend their multi-billion-dollar valuations, vendors now have to prove they actually own the governed business outcome, the data context, and the audit trail. They can't just charge for a login credential anymore.
Section 1. Executive Risk and Reality. We'll start our operational post-mortem by examining the specific catalyst that reignited this structural pressure. Anthropic recently executed a severe strategic separation. They released Claudifiable 5 for general availability, bringing long-horizon reasoning to the public. But simultaneously, they launched Claude Mythos 5. This is the exact same underlying model, but with its safeguards lifted for a highly restricted group of cyber defenders and infrastructure providers initially operating through Project Glasswing. What does this prove? A stark reality. A model's capability is now inextricably linked to model control and restricted access. The market reaction to this dual release was immediate and telling. Workday fell 3.1%, Oracle dropped 3.1%, and Palantir fell 3.2% during the afternoon trading session. Now, even though this was a smaller move than previous tech sell-offs, the signal to executive leadership is absolute. Raw, frontier models actively and continuously pressure the application layer. Every single time a more capable AI agent is released, the market questions whether legacy systems of record can actually defend their workflow dominance.
Section 2. The MCP Connector Post-Mortem.
To understand how these frontier models are penetrating the enterprise so effectively, we absolutely must dissect the underlying integration architecture. And the crucial catalyst here is the Model Context Protocol, or MCP. Think of MCP as the USB-C of AI integrations. Historically, connecting an AI model to your ERP or CRM required expensive, custom API code and massive developer overhead. It was a nightmare. MCP is a universal standard. A vendor builds one single MCP server, and it works securely across platforms. It's accelerating enterprise adoption by turning those incredibly complex integrations into standardized plug-and-play connections. Let's exhaustively break down the 3 tiers of this new integration landscape. Tier 1 is native. Platforms like HubSpot and Oracle NetSuite have built direct native connectors. You authenticate once, and the AI can read data and trigger actions without any secondary friction. Tier 2 relies on MCP servers. Sage Intacct is a good example here, offering programmatic access that requires some configuration up front, but remains highly secure. Then we have Tier 3, the middleware layer. These are systems like Zoho and Pipedrive that actually have to route through third-party automation tools just to connect to the AI. Here is the hard truth. If your architecture relies on Tier 3, you're carrying significant operational risk. Relying on middleware bridges like Zapier or Make introduces structural bottlenecks. It adds latency, it increases costs, and most critically, it creates multiple failure points. Sure, for simple triggers, it functions, but for deep, contextual enterprise workflows, middleware completely lacks the governed read and write access required for reliable, secure execution.
Section 3. Regulated Industries and Phase A. Transitioning from architecture to governance, we need to talk about the guardrails required before deploying these capabilities into regulated industries. We call this concept Phase A stability. The sheer necessity of Phase A stability was highlighted by a critical governance complication during Anthropic's rollout. They literally had to apologize for invisible guardrails in Fable 5 that could alter or degrade responses for certain high-risk prompts, all without clearly informing the user. Listen, for enterprise trust, transparency is non-negotiable. If an invisible safeguard alters a financial analysis or a compliance check, the entire system fails. CIOs are evaluating auditability and predictable data handling just as heavily as raw processing power.
So, how are industry leaders establishing this trust? They're locking it down. Salesforce Agentforce protects regulated industries by keeping data strictly within customer-managed virtual private clouds. TCS Diligenta is applying AI to manage policies for 22 million UK life and pension holders safely and securely. Intuit ensures that existing user permissions hold absolute power, meaning if an employee cannot see a payroll file in QuickBooks, the AI cannot see it either. This isn't just compliance, this is the very definition of operational integrity.
Section 4. The Human Operational Blueprint. Technology is only half the equation. We have to analyze the human architecture and how these protocol shifts directly impact the frontline operators executing the business. This shift introduces a massive operational vulnerability. What actually happens to employee identity capital and operational change fatigue when AI begins executing the workflow? We have to remember a core rule: process before platform. If you automate an unengineered, broken manual process, you don't fix it. You simply force an inefficiency to fail faster and at scale. Leaders absolutely must protect their human operators by ensuring the underlying data and processes are perfectly clean before introducing any sort of agentic orchestration.
The macroeconomic scale of this human impact is immense. Small businesses generate 44% of the United States GDP and employ nearly half the private sector workforce. Yet, their adoption of AI has historically stopped at the chat window. That's changing. The launch of targeted solutions like Claude for small business is explicitly designed to push these frontier capabilities directly into the hands of the solo entrepreneurs and mid-market operators who are actually driving the economy.
The practical application of this: it's automating the late-night to-do list. We're looking at 15 ready-to-run agentic workflows embedded directly inside tools like Intuit, QuickBooks, and HubSpot. This isn't just some conceptual tech demo. It's an AI agent actively settling cash positions, building 30-day forecasts, writing plain English profit and loss statements, and queuing invoices for human approval. The AI executes the tedious clerical work, the human reviews, validates, and approves.
And this scales rapidly into serious mid-market complexity. Take a regional restaurant group with 15 locations. Through the Intuit partnership, a customized AI agent can seamlessly connect third-party point of sale and inventory data directly with Intuit payroll and workforce hours. It orchestrates across totally disparate systems to automatically flag margin variances and identify underperforming locations. This is cross-system orchestration, replacing days, sometimes weeks, of manual spreadsheet reconciliation.
Section 5. Action Plan and Guardrails. We conclude with the chronological action plan. Here are the exact phase-by-phase tactical execution steps for enterprise architects to implement today. Step 1. Audit your integration layers immediately. Identify any Tier 3 middleware bridges that are creating latency or security risks in your stack. Step 2. Establish Phase A stability. Secure your baseline operational integrity, verify those financial ledgers, and ensure strict permission controls are in place long before turning on agentic access. Step 3. Demand your software vendors prove their value through governed outcomes, not just seat access. If they cannot orchestrate the workflow natively, they are a vulnerability to your operation.
Now, if you operate in an environment with absolute, non-negotiable data residency requirements and your vendor lacks a native connector, there is a concrete fallback. Utilize self-hosted, open-source solutions like N8N as your internal middleware layer. This setup allows you to build out agentic workflows while guaranteeing your proprietary data never leaves your infrastructure, ensuring you never fall out of compliance.
We leave you with this final, stark assessment. The era of the isolated software application is ending. The Model Context Protocol is actively standardizing how intelligence interfaces with your business data. You need to audit your technical debt today. Ensure your processes are engineered before they are automated. The deciding factor moving forward is simply this: will your enterprise command the workflow, or will the workflow command you?